Alright, so I have browned the bacon a little bit, and I'm going to move it over to a dish, a bowl, whatever, just somewhere out of the pot that I'm frying it in. And now once I get all these out, I'm gonna leave that bacon grease and the oil that I sauteed the bacon in. While it's hot, I'm gonna put in the stew beef. I can't put all of it in at once. We're just trying to brown it, so we put it in there in a layer, and we'll just keep browning it until I've got all of them done. Pardon the watery eyes, I've been slicing the onion, but I am just now finishing browning my meat. So I'm gonna pull that all out. I've been putting it in the bowl where I put the bacon, and it will sit out there for a little bit. I'm gonna saute the vegetables in this bacon fat and beef juice. Press that out. Still got a little piece. Okay, so I've got sliced carrots and sliced onion. I'm gonna put in here. I'm just gonna fold that around, saute it till it's soft. While the sliced onion and carrot are finishing up, I'm gonna get the pearl onions ready. So right now I've got a tablespoon and a half of butter and a tablespoon and a half of oil already in the pan. I'm gonna dump, I believe I have 19 of these little pearl onions, and I'm just gonna saute them a little bit. So I've preheated the oven to 325. I am now going to put the meat back in. And then I'll put 2 tablespoons of flour, a fourth of a teaspoon of pepper, and a teaspoon of salt. This is a half teaspoon, so I'm going to put 2 halves. Make 1. And then I'm going to toss that meat with the vegetables and the flour and all of that. I'm gonna mix it until it is all evenly incorporated. Now that I've got that all mixed together, I am going to pop it in the oven for about 4 minutes. Okay, so it's been 4 minutes. I'm going to pull it out, toss the meat, and then put it back in for another 4 minutes. The pearl onions are pretty browned, so I'm going to add half a cup of the water with the bouillon cube that I have prepared. I had 3 cups of it for the Boeuf Bourguignon, so I'm going to use half of the cup of that one, and I'm going to dump it in here. And then I have made a little herb bouquet, so I'm going to pop that in there. And then I'm going to put a lid on it and simmer it for about 40 to 50 minutes. So I've pulled it out of the oven, and now I'm just going to stir it around real quick. And then I'm going to pour in 3 cups of a dry red wine. It recommends Chianti, but I didn't have any of that. I just got some Merlot, so that's what I'm going to use. So that's 3 cups. I'm going to spread it a little bit. And then you're going to grab your beef stock, and you're just going to pour enough in there to cover that meat. So I had about 2.5 cups of that, and I might as well just pour the rest of it in. That'll be okay. And then I'm going to put in a tablespoon of tomato paste. 1/4 of a teaspoon of thyme, and then a crumpled up bay leaf. A couple of pieces that didn't crumple very well, so I'm gonna pull those out. Perfect. All right, so I'm gonna stir that again so I can get the tomato paste dissolved. And then I'm gonna turn the stove on just enough to make it simmer a little bit. And then after we simmer it, we're gonna pop it in the oven. Okay, so I forgot to add the garlic, so I'm gonna add that now. And then I'll stir it back up. And I'm still waiting for it to simmer, so that's okay that I forgot to add the garlic for a minute. I've got it simmering and I've got the oven set to 325. I'm gonna pop the lid on here and then I'm gonna stick it in the oven for 2.5 to 3.5 hours. I'm gonna start with 2.5 and we'll check it from there. Now, since we have the stew in the oven, we are going to go ahead and saute the mushrooms. I've got 4 tablespoons of butter that I'm gonna melt, and then I'm going to put in a tablespoon of olive oil. Alright, I've got our butter and oil mixed together, melted. I'm gonna pour the mushrooms in there. I think I'll do about half of them, and then I'll saute the other half after I finish these. Our pearl onions are done. I'm gonna put them in this bowl that I'm putting the mushrooms in. I'm just gonna put them off to the side until the meat is finished, and then we'll put it all together. I've pulled the beef stew out of the oven. The way that I check to make sure it's done, I stuck a fork in the meat, and if it falls apart, that means it is ready. Now I'm going to pour it into a mesh strainer. It says to do it over a saucepan, but I don't trust myself to do it because my saucepan is a little bit smaller. So I'm going to do it over a bowl. I finished straining the soup part from the meat. I put the meat over here in this bowl so I can have it onto the side and decide what I'm gonna serve it in. And the liquid I'm going to pour into the saucepan, and then I'm going to put it back on the stove and simmer for a little bit just to make sure that it is thick enough, thin enough, whatever my preference is, so it'll be ready. While I'm waiting for it to simmer, I'm going to skim off any fat that is on the top of the soupy liquid mixture. And as it simmers, there will be more that comes to the top, and I'll just skim that off as well. My liquid is going on a rolling boil so I can thicken it up. I want it a little thicker, so while I'm waiting, I'm going to put the meat and the mushrooms and onion on this platter for serving. So there's my meat with the onion and carrots. Now I'm going to bring over my pearl onions and mushrooms and just spread it over the top. And by then, my liquid should be thick enough for me to pour over this. This is how it looks before I put the liquid on it. Looking pretty good. I've pulled the liquid off of the stove. I'm going to put a little bit on this dish, but once we serve it into a bowl, I'm going to put more liquid into the bowl. There we have it, the Boeuf Bourguignon. I've made it into a soupy stew, and it looks delicious.